pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and feel the tension. It is that quiet, persistent stress that accompanies you day in and day out. It is the painful distance between who you feel you ought to be and who you actually are. You have crossed the threshold of 40. You are success. You have status, possessions, a stable family. You are the respected person who always does the right thing, who always smiles, who is always available for others. But when you are alone, in the silence, you feel like a stranger in your own life. You feel you are following a script that you did not write. Your life is a masterpiece composed by external expectations. It is a checklist of requirements. The perfect parent, the tireless professional, the calm and reliable partner. And here is the tragedy. To meet this checklist, you have slowly, subtly lost your true self. You are wandering not in the world, but within yourself, because you are constantly seeking validation for your worth in the eyes of others. This internal conflict is not a moral failing. It is the result of a deep psychological wound that society has inflicted on all of us. We have been taught to believe that we are worthy of love only on condition. Today, we turn to one of the most humane and revolutionary psychologists of the 20th century, who gave us the key to liberation, Carl Rogers. He taught us that authentic life begins when we stop being fake. We will analyze his concept of client-centered therapy to understand how to stop living by the expectations of others and start living your own life. Are you ready to take off that mask that is so tired of smiling? Are you ready to risk being imperfect to finally become real? Then, let us begin this crucial exploration. How does a life based on external expectations manifest in the existence of a person who has crossed the 40 or 50-year mark? At this age, the symptoms are particularly insidious and often disguised as maturity. First, there is the double life syndrome. Externally, you are successful and composed. Internally, you suffer from chronic exhaustion and irrational anxiety. You're constantly scanning your surroundings, trying to predict the reaction of others before you speak or act. You do not say no for fear of disappointing. You do not do what you love because it's not serious or it won't be understood. All your energy goes not into living, but into maintaining this facade. It is an exhausting game that is impossible to win. Second, we find a rigid value system. The values you profess are not your personal convictions, but introjects absorbed from your parents, your spouse, or your corporate culture. For example, you might be a workaholic because your father always said success is a duty. But in reality, your soul yearns for quiet and artistic expression. This rigidity leads to psychological suffocation. You are no longer able to hear your own inner voice. Third, there is selective deafness to emotions. To meet external expectations, to always be calm, strong, unflappable, you have learned to shut down entire spectrums of feelings. You do not allow yourself to feel anger because good people don't get angry. You do not allow yourself to feel sadness because strong people don't cry. These repressed emotions do not disappear. They manifest as somatic problems, headaches, digestive issues, chronic tension in the shoulders and back. Your body is literally screaming that your soul is suffocating. Fourth, there is the authenticity crisis in relationships. Your closest relationships with your spouse, your children, your friends are based on your false self. You are unsure if they love the real you or if they love the mask you have so carefully created. This insecurity generates a constant need for reconfirmation, for proofs of love. This makes you dependent and incapable of deep, relaxed intimacy. You fear that if they see the real you, they will reject you. Fifth, there is social evaluation instead of self-evaluation. You constantly evaluate yourself through external metrics: how much you earned, where you vacationed, how many followers you have. You do not know what unconditional self-regard is. Your mood and well-being depend entirely on external approval or criticism. You are not the judge of your life. You are simply the defendant in an endless public opinion trial. To break this vicious cycle, we must delve into the key ideas of Carl Rogers. His therapy is based on a radical humanism. Every person has an innate capacity for growth, maturity, and self-actualization. High Voltage Carl Rogers, 3 core concepts. First concept, the organism and the valuing process. Rogers asserted that each of us has an innate organismic tendency, a drive to move toward maturity, independence, and self-improvement. Babies have an organismic valuing process. They intuitively know what is good and bad for them. They reach for softness, they withdraw from loudness. This is our internal, reliable compass. Second concept, the need for positive regard and conditions of worth. As soon as a child interacts with the world, they are faced with the need for positive regard, the need for love, acceptance, and approval from significant adults, parents. Visual metaphor of a shrinking circle representing the real self being suppressed. Unfortunately, this love is often offered conditionally. These are the conditions of worth. I will love you if you are good, obedient, successful if you don't cry. To obtain the necessary love, the child, and later the adult, begins to distort their organismic valuing process. They disconnect their internal compass and start living by external rules. This is the start of a life based on the expectations of others. Third concept, incongruence. Living under external conditions creates a split between your real self, who you genuinely are, with all your desires, fears, and uniqueness, and your ideal self, who you ought to be, according to others' conditions of worth. Incongruence is the distance, the gap between these two selves. The greater the gap, the greater your anxiety, your internal struggle, and your feeling of living a fake life. In the person living by external expectations, the ideal self completely suppresses the real self. The goal of Rogers therapy is to achieve congruence, a match, by eliminating external conditions of worth and restoring your organismic valuing process. So, how can we, armed with these concepts, stop living by the expectations of others and restore our integrity after 40? We need concrete steps based on Rogers' 3 pillars. White heavy checkmark, 5 practical steps to congruence, the Rogers method. Step 1, identification and dismantling of conditions of worth. Take a sheet of paper and list 10 rules by which you live, e.g., I must always be useful, I must never show tiredness, my career is the most important thing. Now, for each rule, ask, whose voice is this? The voice of a parent? A former boss? Society? You will discover that many of your sacred rules are actually external conditions of worth. The first step is to realize that these conditions are external and make a conscious decision to dismantle them. This does not mean immediately abandoning all responsibilities, but recognizing their foreign origin. Step 2, activation of the organismic valuing process through the body. To hear your internal compass again, you need to return to your body. External expectations live in your head in rationalizations. Your true self lives in your sensations. When you need to make a decision, stop, close your eyes, and ask yourself, what does my body feel? Tightness in the chest? Lightness in the stomach? Rogers taught, the body does not lie. If the body resists, the decision or action is not aligned with your real self. This is the direct path to restoring the intuition you shut down in childhood. Step 3, practicing unconditional self-regard, acceptance. For years, you have accepted yourself only on condition. Now you must practice unconditional self-regard. Make a mistake. Do something unserious. Experience a strong, forbidden emotion, anger, envy, despair. Instead of self-criticism, tell yourself, I feel this, and I accept myself as I am in this moment. My worth has not diminished. Rogers found that by giving ourselves that unconditional positive regard that was missing in childhood, we begin to heal the wound. Step 4, deliberate increase of incongruence, stepping out of the comfort of falseness. Incongruence is painful, but it can become a lever for growth. Start consciously doing things that go against external expectations. If you are expected to be the life of the party, say no to the next invitation and spend the evening alone with a book. If you are expected to work late, leave on time and say you have personal matters without explaining. These are small acts of authenticity that reduce the gap between the ideal and real self. You are training your authenticity muscle, preparing for more serious life decisions. Step 5. Creating a supportive environment, unconditional acceptance. You cannot heal in the same environment that wounded you. Seek out people who can offer you unconditional positive regard. These can be therapists, mentors, new friends. These are people in whose presence you do not need to pretend to feel accepted. Spending time in such an environment is living proof that you can be loved simply for being you. By gradually increasing the time spent there, you rewrite your old conditions of worth. We have completed our deep dive into the philosophy of Carl Rogers. You are not obliged to be a masterpiece of external expectations. You are a unique, self-actualizing being who has every right to live your life. To stop living by the expectations of others, you need to turn away from external judges and return to your internal compass. This is an act of courage, not selfishness. It is the highest manifestation of self-love. Your task for today, which will change your life, is a commitment to action. Write in the comments one condition of worth, a rule you live by that you now understand does not belong to you, e.g., I am no longer obligated to be the perfect leader. Within the next 72 hours, consciously perform one small act of incongruence, e.g., I will honestly say no to an invitation I do not want to accept. If the teaching of Carl Rogers has given you strength, please share this video. Subscribe to the channel. We will continue to build an authentic life. And remember Rogers' central principle. The paradoxical thing is that when I accept myself as I am, then I can change.